Good morning. I'm Mayor Buddy Dyer, and I'd like to welcome you to the September 10th workshop of the Orlando City Council. Commissioners, today we're going to begin with a presentation related to UCF Create on Broadband, but I'm going to call on Commissioner Lynham to introduce this workshop.
Good morning, and thank you very much. I want to express my sincere appreciation for the Create program at UCF for coming this morning to share the Broadband Technology Program that would be the second year in District 5, and it may spark some interest for other districts to pick up. But it all started over 4 years ago when I was invited to join an African American Women in Technology group in Chicago, Illinois, at the National Organization of Black Legislators. Then, shortly afterwards, with the help of our local celebrity, Ms. Julia Johnson, and David Connick, I was invited to participate in the Minority Media Telecommunications Council and have been active all of this time. This is the first year I wasn't able to go, but Victor Randall was there, and to get a chance to know all of the partners and principals in technology from Verizon to Comcast and the great partners. I wanted to bring a program to Orlando. Had won, we thought, $25,000 through the minority group in technology, but was never able to get the money. So we were able to find some money in our budget because of the importance of teaching young people about broadband technology and to move the needle in terms of access to computers, iPads, and other applications. And most people who do not have computers use their mobile applications. They use their mobile phones. So the one thing I wanted, in particularly Parramore, where the Create office is to make sure those youngsters had a jump start, whether they were at the recreation centers or at the library or in their own homes, on how to use these devices. Dr. Stella Sung and her student at the time when I met him, Vic Randall, were more than willing to help put this program together. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Stella Sung, who will in turn introduce Victor. As a national and international award-winning composer, Dr. Stella Sung's compositions are performed throughout the United States and abroad. She was the first composer in residence for the Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra and is composer in residence for Dance Alive National Ballet in Gainesville, Florida. Her work spans from orchestral music to ballets, chamber music, and music for film and video. And she is currently writing an opera for the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. Dr. Sung is director of the Center for Research and Education in Arts, Technology, and Entertainment, CREATE, at the University of Central Florida, and is a Pegas Professor, which is the university's highest award given to distinguished faculty members. Dr. Sung and I had an opportunity to attend one of her concerts, and it was phenomenal. Dr. Stella Sung.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynham. Good morning. We are honored and delighted to be here with you all this morning. As Commissioner Lyman mentioned to you, I am Director of Create. We are partnership-driven and project-driven unit within the College of Arts and Humanities at UCF. Our dean is Dr. Jose Fernandez. We are located right across from what will be the Creative Village. So we look forward to being a part of the Creative Village and creating some new and exciting projects. We've been working with the City of Orlando for several years with our Parramore Kids Zone project, which we've been very, very happy to be a part of and still continue to do. But today we'd like to share with you a new project that we have that we started last year. This is very exciting. We feel that it has broad-ranging impact and will perhaps not only impact our community, but those in communities across the nation. It's that big. I'd like to introduce to you my assistant and program coordinator, Victor Randall. As Commissioner Lynham mentioned, he was a student of ours at UCF. He was in our animation program and was working with me as a composer. is a wonderful young man and has been working with me. He's actually my right-hand man, and we work as a team, and we do all kinds of projects together. So I'm going to introduce Victor to you, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about our broadband project. So Victor?
Another round of good mornings to you all.
Good morning.
I'd like to take this moment to explain a little project that we've been working on for the past year. In front of you are packets that have a little bit more detail about what I'm going to go into. So I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible and succinct. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask after I am finished. So this project is called District 5 Broadband. And I'd like to thank Commissioner Lynham for sponsoring this project. So what is District 5 Broadband? Well, District 5 Broadband is a project, a series of programs aimed at increasing the level of digital literacy in Parramore while creating growth and opportunity for the citizens. We have a number of goals that we wish to accomplish with this project. First of all, we'd like to increase usage of access of public accessible computer centers. We'd like to enhance the technical prowess of the community. We'd like to educate and create more digital citizens. We'd like to develop skills to give citizens a place in this upcoming creative village that will be coming in the future. We'd also like to preserve Parramore's history and culture. And finally, we'd also like to use the opportunity to research the effect that access to technology and training of people in low-income areas. Now, this project contains 3 branches of service. Our first branch is digital literacy, which aims to educate the local community about digital literacy, which is learning things about basic computer types, the different file types, how it is to be a digital citizen. And we hope to utilize one of the public community centers to get this work done. We've been working with the Jackson Center for the past few years, and we would like to utilize that space since it's well known to us and the community. Our second branch of service is mobile learning, and we have recently started in the past year developing that program, teaching young teens how to utilize their mobile devices for more than entertainment. We really try to focus on shifting that thought that mobile devices are just for entertainment and teaching them how to actually produce things with these devices. And our third leg is the Parramore Digital Stories, which is a oral history project which encompasses both of the other 2 branches to really try and bring out something that's close to the Parramore community, having them tell their story, but also being able to utilize the training that we've given them over time to create these stories digitally, and hopefully we can store those to be used in the Creative Village in the future. So, digital literacy. Quick overview. We want to teach common computer standards and what digital citizenship is to the Parramore community citizens. We want to teach them what interacting in digital spaces is. Now, when I say interacting in digital spaces, we're really talking about what does it mean to be social online, as well as what are some of the rules or the unknown rules in interacting in these spaces. Because a lot of people know about the internet, but they haven't really interacted and know what the culture is like. So we want to kind of uncover what is that online culture and how do you become a part of it and interact successfully with other people who are already in the know. We're going to teach basic computer maintenance. Well, when I say basic, it's actually a little bit more than basics. We're going to start off with actually building computers. It's very simple, and a lot of people don't really know what's inside of those boxes, and it's really as simple as putting slots or putting cards in slots. And we hope to empower the citizens by teaching them these very simple things that they can take this another step forward and maybe even create businesses. We're going to teach them some alternative job-seeking resources, hopefully partnering with one of the members in Parramore Kid Zones who place people in jobs. And we would also teach them multiple platforms. Not only will they have access to learning how to use the Windows platform, but they will be able to come to us to learn the Mac platform. Because as we know, each one has its trade-offs. So we would like to seek to let them know the best of both universes. And we also have a built-in incentive in this digital literacy portion. To be a part of the secondary portion, where we teach people about using the Macintosh computers, doing video editing, audio editing, and creating these media. Before you can get into that, you have to take the basic digital literacy courses at the Jackson Center, learning about the basics of computer use and Windows. So after you complete that basic training, then you can move on into the more glamorous aspects of learning about how to use computers. We have a few goals with the digital literacy portion. We would like to reduce any fears or misunderstandings about joining the digital realm. Develop a basic skill set so that participants can navigate virtually any standard operating system environment. So after they learn these basics, it doesn't matter if they have Windows, if they have Macs. Some of them might even learn how to navigate a Linux system. Create awareness of the many capabilities of modern technology. And instill the concept of technology being a tool for self-empowerment. That's the one that we're really aiming for the most, is letting these people know that there's this tool out there, and if you use it correctly, there's all types of things that you can do. This is not just simply for entertainment, which is something that's hard to get away from these days since it's what we're constantly bombarded with. I'm going to move on to the mobile learning branch of service. Now, the mobile learning branch, we're currently trying to get iPads, or rather mobile devices, into classrooms, and we will be working with a particular school within the area to integrate this technology into their curriculum. And we hope that we can gather some research data on seeing how mobile devices can impact learning in the classroom. So our goals are to collect data on how mobile technology impacts learning in the classroom. We'd like to diminish the image of mobile technology as being used solely for entertainment purposes. And we'd like to instill the view of mobile technology as a tool for our learning and self-expression. Now, like I said, as you all know, we've been a year into this project, and we've had a very successful pilot year. I worked with about a group of 12 students every day after school, Wednesdays after school, for about a period of 2 hours, and we put together a number of projects. And we really tried to talk about, well, what are the features of these devices? How do we use these features to our benefit? What are some types of applications that we could use to help with our study habits? How can we use it to create things right on the spot while we're going through some type of learning experience? And our students have created a number of videos solely on their iPad devices. That means they used the internet, they took pictures, they recorded everything to make a product at the end. And what I'm about to show you is one of my students' projects that she finished. It's about 2 to 3 minutes in length, and I'll let that play. I hope you enjoy.
He is a composer, ain't he?
This has helped me on so many ways. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Thank you.
We can't hear you.
Computers. What are computers? Well, one thing I use computers for is my homework. And homework, who doesn't like homework? Homework helps you a lot. And ever since I've been using computers, my grades have been on top of the game. I've been getting very good grades, such as A's, mostly A's. Computers also help me go on a website called Progress Book. It's a school-wide that allows me to check my grades and help me with my improvements, so I can get a big improvement award. I've earned a lot because computers have really helped me.
created on an iPad by one of my students, and the first assignment was to tell how has technology helped you in your life. If you'd like, in that packet that I gave you, near the end of it, there should be the list of criteria of how we set that project up. So moving right along. We're trying to move into phase 2 of our mobile learning project, where we hope to be in classrooms by spring of 2013. Then the last leg of our District 5 broadband project is Parramore Digital Stories. Now, the purpose of Parramore Digital Stories is to synthesize the digital literacy and the mobile learning branches to collect and to collect and preserve Parramore's history. Sorry. Now, the idea of this project, we will collect and store oral histories from the citizens of Parramore. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we will have the citizens of Parramore hopefully create their own digital stories to add to this reservoir of information that we are collecting. So that way they're using some of the tools that we've taught them throughout to actually do something that can benefit them directly and help them share their stories for the futures to come. Now, the citizens will be taught how to create these stories and utilize those skills that they've learned from our programs. So we believe that a creative village needs creative villagers, and we hope that through this project that we can create those people right here in our own community. So it's our hope that through this work that we will empower these people with the skill set that they need to hopefully be a part of this creative village which is coming into their community. And that is all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mayor, I'd like
Commissioner.
to make a few comments.
Yes.
Thank you, Victor. That little young lady really did make that video, and there were several where Dr. Sung and Dean
Fernandez.
Yes, Dean was with us. Jose Gonzalez, is it?
Fernandez,
I'm sorry. Tony Commissioner Ortiz should be correcting me because he told us he's his godfather or godfather of his daughter or something like that. And I told him certainly Commissioner Ortiz would probably want this program. But I wanted to further clarify that a few months ago, or last year, we thought we had some extra money from the Zia Riley program until it was snatched away by Laurie and Kevin. We were getting ready to buy all the kids their own personal iPads when we had to return the money, Mayor, to where it came from. So it was really, really disappointed in that. Also, we saw a number of students at Jones High School on the Honor Society also in this program. We also want to identify those youngsters at Howard Middle School to capture them. However, at this moment, unless another commissioner wants to come in, I've asked Dr. Song and Victor, the dollars for District 5 need to stay in District 5 unless we pool this program where we can get down to Howard, work with other students, because it just makes sense that all students, these district lines are kind of silly when it comes to the digital divide. If these kids, low income, need help, we really want to capture them and include them in the program. We also looked at one time our senior citizens, especially over at Carver Park. They have computers, they have a small computer lab, and we had also planned to update the computer lab at the Callahan and at Jackson out of those dollars. But I'm hoping that the East-West Expressway Authority may give us some money again, or someone else that we can really put to use or get some money to keep these devices updated for our youngsters. I know 4 years ago I introduced my grandkids who were, I think 3 or 4 years ago, who were 7 and 5, and gave them their own laptops, and they are phenomenal. They're far better on them than I am. So this is the objective, is to make sure all youngsters, whether it's 5, whether it's 6 or 4 or 3, whatever district they're in and they're needy, to be able to have this access to fun learning and closing that digital divide here in Orlando. I do know, and I've met with Bright House, that Comcast has computer hookups for like $9.95. I know I've given I have given testimony to FCC like three times and to Congress regarding lowering the rates for monthly computer fees so that low-income families will have access, and this would not be an issue. It is so important, but a lot of people do not see the relevance and consequently would not pay the $30 or $40 a month. But if we can get it down with Bright House as our provider to $10 a month, I believe more families and low income will be able to provide their children, their students, with this service. And, of course, all of our recreation centers have these devices, but we need enough staff to make sure the computers are not harmed, that they're used wisely, correctly, and that creates another bit of a divide. So I just want to, if there are any questions that anyone has, let you know why I thought it was important for our youngsters. It's all about moving forward in this generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I just would like to point out how pleased we are to have UCF as part of our Creative Village concept, both the School of Emerging Media and all the other components. Everything that we do is made stronger through partnership and collaboration, and I know that Dr. Hitt is a strong believer in partnership and collaboration. So as we develop the Creative Village, when it's also having the ancillary benefits of closing the digital divide in the neighborhoods surrounding the Creative Village and giving opportunity for the people that live around the Creative Village to participate in the experiences and other opportunities that are going to be able to be created there, that certainly extends the purpose and the meaning of what we're doing there. So I certainly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Ains.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that was a outstanding presentation. So when are you coming to District 6?
As soon as you let us in.
All right. All right. Have you heard of the Smith Center?
The Smith Center, I am not aware.
All right. So we've got to do a tour of the Smith Center and specifically some portions of District 6, because this program would be very beneficial to those young people, especially from the creative aspect. And there are a lot of other things that we can do. We do love the sports part, too, because we encourage the kids on that. But we also got to encourage the creative minds, and especially how this can help them with their homework and their school projects. They'll feel more energized. And I just want to say, Professor, that you have created a composer, because as he turned those pages, he was directing. So.
And it's all being done
From my iPad.
Oh, okay, great. I thought you had a big computer up there.
That's the mobile device.
That's the mobile device. Okay, and then the next thing, too, while you're teaching the kids in District 6, please make sure that I'm a part of that classroom so I can get some more experience as well.
Well, I'd like to add that especially the digital literacy portion that's to be taught is aimed at from teenagers to adults, because it is very important to have the older population know how to operate these devices as well as being able to utilize the internet in a very efficient and meaningful way. That way they can pass it on to their children.
It generally goes the other way around. Children pass it on to the parent or the grandparent.
We still have to get rid of that fear in the older population and be using these devices, because I know there's still some resilience to, like, well, I don't really feel comfortable with my information being out there and all of those other things. So we try to make sure that everyone understands exactly what it is that they're getting into and can be comfortable. That way they can interact with their children and their children's friends and whomever else is out there on the internet.
And finally, I'd like to say I'm sure our city clerk, Elena Brenner, would just love for the commissioners to get to know your program a little bit more so we can get to know this Novus agenda.
We'd love to invite any of you down to visit us anytime. And please do let us know how we can help you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, as you're leaving, Mayor, may I make one more statement?
Sure.
Just to say a real special thanks to Kevin Edmonds. I pick on him a lot regarding how to make things happen and to get people paid. And I think this is one of those projects, at least for the district that I'm responsible for, it's important, and Commissioner Eanes is saying that it's important for his youth. And it is targeted for the more or less for the lower income students. So Kevin, I want to say a real special thanks to you and whoever else was helping you get this project through for us. And you need to check with Commissioner Eanes to see how much he's willing to put up since he wants them over there. Doesn't come free, Commissioner. So there's a buy-in.
I thought I was piggybacking.
You are. You are. They will expand the services to whichever district you want to have represented. But Mayor Dye and I have, in my opinion, looked to the future on all of these things we do, and it is about Creative Village and being a part of it. And we started, it's been over 10 years since you've been here, 10 years?
Close.
With EA and all of the things we've done through the years. So this is very, very important, not only for just Parramore, but all across the city. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So the second workshop FJ is going to conduct, and this council this year and the last several years has been very focused on job creation and encouraging development and capital investment in our city. And we have tried to do it in innovative ways, and one is through our policies with transportation impact fees. So the Transportation Advisory Committee has engaged in a review and worked with Tyndale, Oliver & Associates to propose a new transportation fee schedule and incentive program, which is on our agenda this afternoon. But I wanted to bring this to a workshop before we voted on it this afternoon. FJ?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, we're going to get the computer set up here. But before I get going, we've been at this for over a year, and we probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the contributions of our staff, but maybe more importantly, our consultant, as well as the Transportation Advisory Committee. And so before I get going, I'd like to call the chairman of that committee up, Terry Delahunty, to have some opening remarks, and then I'll get into the presentation.
Terry, welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm pleased to report that the Transportation Advisory Committee has unanimously recommended changes to the impact fee scheme that the city has here, and FJ will give you the details of it. I'd like to let you know who the members of the committee are. This is the second go-around. We've started meeting in 2006 before the bubble hit and burst, and we had to redo it all, but I think we have a very good recommendation coming your way. My co-chairman was Pat Christensen. We also had Mike Beal, Ed Hampton, Ron Camillo, Kirk Hartman, Ellen Hardgrove, Craig Usler, Derek Burke, and Brinley Peters, and I think we might have a couple of our committee members right over there, Derek and Ron, so thank you. As you recall, this committee was established back in 2007 when there was a proposal for a major sevenfold increase, and members of the industry groups, of which the committee members were involved, raised some concerns, and the city put the committee together, and I think it was a very worthwhile endeavor, and we got a lot of good input from the stakeholders. The committee was reconstituted last year, and we've met over the course of 2011 and 2012 with Tyndale Oliver, and also working with city staff, FJ and Nancy Otini and others. We believe that the recommendations are fair and that they'll help the city follow the path of smart growth and multimodal solutions for transportation. So FJ will give the details, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay, well, welcome back. What I'm going to do today, we'll get that changed over here in a second. What I'm going to go over today is really kind of a history of how we got to where we are, the involvement of the Transportation Advisory Committee over the last year, kind of what the things were that we actually looked at, hit some of the highlights of the study, and then get into the recommendations, and then kind of give you a schedule of events. So from a historical perspective, The city rolled out its first impact fee, transportation impact fee, in 1986, and it was with the adoption of Chapter 56 City Code. And really, between 86 and 2006, there really wasn't a whole lot that had changed, other than in 1995, there was an adjustment to the rate schedule to include special districts. There's one on Edgewater Drive, one in East Washington, to reduce rates for projects that had more of a pedestrian component to them. In 2006, we did the last update to trip rates and trip generation. We expanded some land use categories, and the amended fee rates reflected a 2004 cost of construction. And so since 2004, we've seen the cost of construction come up significantly and then drop significantly as well. And so the construction costs that we looked at were a little bit higher than the 2004 rates. In 2009, if you remember, we indexed the rate based on CPI, and so the rate was adjusted up 3%. And then due to prevailing economic conditions in 2011, we approved some incentives to help spur additional economic growth, and that took the form of two different policy changes. One was the change of use exemption, and that was an attempt to help fill existing vacant space within the city. And then we also did an additional 25% reduction across the board to all land use categories. That reduction sunsets at the end of this year as per city code. And so what we did was we put together, as per code, we put together a request for services, and we contracted with Tyndall Oliver in 2010. And so the work that Tyndall Oliver did in 2010 basically was to go back and look at our historic transportation revenues, where we had spent those dollars, and on what projects we spent those dollars on. Sensing that we kind of weren't quite where we wanted to be economy-wise, we took a look at expanding their scope of work in 2011 to include additional policy considerations to help use the transportation impact fee as an economic development tool. And so what we had hoped was that we would put together policies that would steer growth in certain areas, and then also introduce the concept of an impact fee thermostat. Rather than use the CPI, we would look at the city's growth rate as a determinant of where we should go with transportation impact fees. And I think, Commissioner Ings, you took particular interest in that concept. And Terry went through through the list of members of the Transportation Advisory Committee, and so it was important, based on our experiences in 2006, to reconstitute this group and get involvement at the very earliest stages of the study on certain policy directions, and also have this group review the study from a technical standpoint, because if you remember, in 2006, we had some interest from the Home Builders Association on the technical constructs of our study. And so the Transportation Advisory Committee met for the first time in June of 2011. They reviewed the consultant's scope, and it was important for them to understand what we would be asking them to look at as a group. In September, we did a couple of exercises on fees and growth rates, and then also asked them to look at land uses by geographic area, what land uses made more sense in certain areas than others. And then in November of last year, we kind of reviewed the result of the exercise, and then basically we had them score, what land uses might be more appropriate in certain areas. And then we started discussing options to implement the new fee policy. In February of this year, the consultant had produced the draft report, and so between the November meeting and February, they went back, kind of listened to what the Transportation Advisory Committee had to say, in addition to some of the information they got from staff and the data that they had collected back in 2011, and kind of combined that into the overall draft report, where there were recommendations from a technical standpoint and then policy standpoint. The group reviewed the draft in February, had some revisions to make, and in June looked at the revised draft report again. And then, based on the direction that the TAC had given us, we basically combined that into the final report, and the Transportation Advisory Committee kind of made a recommendation based on what we had put together with regards to implementation or continued implementation of the 50% policy discount, the introduction of transit-oriented development discounts, and what we would do with the change in use exemption. So moving on to the study itself, from a technical standpoint, we're transitioning from the old study, which was basically road and car-based, to one that includes transit in the actual costs. And in order to do that, we had to make assumptions and determinations on cost per person mile of travel instead of vehicle mile of travel. We also utilized data from Florida studies that the consultant has collected over the past 2 or 3 decades with regards to trip rates for commercial uses. And then we also had them look at estimating future capacity needs and make determinations on future growth rates. And so back in the early 2000s, the city's growth rate was significant, and after 2008, 2009, the growth rate had kind of slowed, and right now the projected growth rate that we're using in the formula is 1.2%. And so based on that, when you compare the existing study with the 2009 rates, which were based on the 2006 study, if you apply the existing 50% discount, you see that for single-family, multifamily, there's some slight change, but on most of our commercial rates, there's a significant decrease in what we charge. And so the question that we had was, well, why is that significantly different? And so early in the presentation, I had indicated that the original study was done in 1986, and I think this reflects kind of a refinement in transportation data collection and technology, and introduces concepts like trip chaining and internal capture that I don't think were really well vetted in 1986 when the original study was done. Moving on, policy recommendations. The city over the last 5 years has made significant contributions and commitments to funding premium level of transit in Orlando. And so just downtown, we're looking at over $26 million worth of investment in our enhanced BRT. And then with regards to Sunrail, the city's $16 million commitment into that overall $615 million project give us a capacity in and around these stations that we need to take advantage of. And so we had started out with the Transportation Advisory Committee talking about recommendations for fee discounts. And if you build and design a project that's transit-oriented, we felt that if you're within a quarter mile of one of these stations, you should receive a full 100% discount to capitalize on the investment that the city has already made in this infrastructure. So that is one of the first policy recommendations. The second policy recommendation deals with the change of use fee exemption, which sunsets at the end of this year. We had considered, or staff had considered, extending that another year to help, again, spur economic development activity within our existing built environment. And then with regards to the additional 25% reduction to the current fee schedule, which sunsets on December 31st of this year, we recommended no action or no extension to this in exchange for rolling out the new impact fee schedule. And so to summarize, what we're proposing in the ordinance that you'll review this afternoon is the implementation of the 50% existing 50% policy discount to the new technical study that was produced by Tyndall Oliver, and then adopt the transit-oriented development incentive program to capitalize on the city's existing investment in transit. And then one of the recommendations that the Transportation Advisory Committee had that differed from staff's recommendation was to make the change of use exemption permanent and basically require staff to review that on an annual basis for continued effectiveness as an economic development tool. So that is the way the ordinance is drafted. And as far as the schedule of events upcoming, first read of the ordinance will be on September 10th. We are required to produce a 90-day notice for any fee increase, and so that will be done on September 30th. And then October 1st will be second reading of the ordinance, and then the new rate schedule will go into effect on January 1st. So that concludes the bulk of the presentation, and I'm here, Terry's here, and our consulting team is all here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, FJ. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you. Thank you, FJ. That was a great presentation. I believe we discussed briefly at my office because I really like what I see, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for investment, those areas, especially dropping the impact fees. I'd like to see something similar in my district, and I believe Commissioner Gray also. I mean, I'm not speaking for him, but I think I would like to see something similar in our districts because not only we'll have access to links in terms of once the Sonrail is built, maybe looking into a study to build some sort of destinations, but it will also help us enhance some of those areas in our districts that need help by dropping the impact fees. I understand that. I give you the idea. I don't know what are we planning on doing. If you can give me some heads up, or I mean, as soon as you guys come up with something. But I'd like to see something moving as soon as possible.
Well, I think the good thing is that regionally, I think with the discussions that we've had regarding Sunrail and all the partnerships that we've forged, transit will begin to play an increasing role in our capacity options in the future. And so the city has undertaken the alternatives analysis to do the Parramore BRT and the East-West. We've also looked at expanding BRT from hospital to hospital, basically. And so that's what we're doing locally. But if you look at things regionally, the state has two AAs that they had procured. They haven't done anything with those yet, pending direction from the federal government with regards to MAP 21, which is a new transportation bill. And then there's also another study that Lynx is doing to explore east-west connections along State Road 50 from UCF to downtown and downtown out to, I think, Lake County now. So we're at the point now where we're really beginning to take a serious look at that. In addition, there's the connection from the Sunrail Sand Lake Station to OIA, to Medical City, to Innovation Way that has been procured as well. And so I think we're close. I think your idea of the super stop probably provides an additional opportunity to kind of look at some additional transit-oriented development in your district.
Yes, well, I'm looking at the main gate to the region, as I call it, and we're in the midst of revitalization. And I think this would grant us a great opportunity for new businesses, vibrant businesses, to start locating themselves around that area. And I have a few of those already kind of signed up, but they are looking at an opportunity like this one also to go ahead and install themselves. Thank you. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ings and then Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, FJ. Appreciate your presentation. But did I miss a slide as it relates with the proposed fee schedule itself and what that looked like?
No, you didn't. And what I'll give you is a sample of that. As you know, the fee schedule itself has over 40 different land use categories, and it should be in the ordinance in your packet, but I'll give you a kind of a representative rate comparison. And so what you're seeing here is the difference between the 2012 study and the 2009 rates that will be in effect at the end of this year when that additional 25% discount sunsets. And so as you can see, single-family rates increase about $110, and then multifamily rates decrease, hotel, light industrial. And then we thought it was important to look at office, high-turnover restaurant, and retail, because those are the uses that we see most frequently down in the Office of Permitting Services.
Okay, I did see your bar chart concerning this.
Yeah.
But it was the actual figures that I was looking for, too. Because there is a significant decrease when you're talking about 62.21% decrease through bank with drive-through at 1,000 square feet. That's tremendous. And that does encourage somebody to want to come in and do business with the city now.
Right. Yes, and I think that was some of the innovation that we were looking for with our consultant. And again, the technical parts of our study that we had been using to develop the 2009 schedule were dated back to the mid-'80s. And so when you talk about innovation and actually looking at how some land uses interact with others, I think probably if I could explain it in this way, when you go to the bank or you go to the pharmacy, you typically, sometimes that's a single trip, but other times you hit the bank, the dry cleaners, and so you chain some of your trips together. And so the impact is not always one new trip. It's a partial, it's a percentage of that trip going to the bank, and then some going to retail, and then maybe to your office.
Okay. Now, I must admit, as it relates with the ordinance amending Chapter 56, there's a lot of reading involved in that. And we didn't go over a lot of this stuff during our briefing, but there's one piece in there that I was kind of concerned with, and that was what is person miles of travel? What does that mean?
Well, under the old impact fee ordinance, we looked at it from basically a trip and a capacity standpoint. When we introduce the notion of transit travel, that is an individual riding on a bus or on rail, and so they make up a portion of that one trip. And so that person miles of capacity reflects kind of the single user rather than a vehicle.
Okay, because I was thinking of somebody on a bicycle or somebody just walking along the roadway, and I was wondering how does that really affect, the roadway system itself with just a bicycle or person traversing over it.
The way the study is constructed, we've looked at it based on kind of the region's modal split, and so currently there's still about 95% of all trips are made by car, and we assumed about 5% were made by transit. Bicycling and walking kind of make up less than 1% of those trips, and so those costs are factored into the cost of roadway improvements. When we build a road, we always build sidewalks, and in recent days, bicycle lanes. So those costs are all reflected in kind of the overall transportation system cost.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Stewart.
FJ, great job. I appreciate it. The concerns I have are what has been the impact of the discount that we've had, that we provided, compared to other local areas, especially the county. You end up with a couple of weird situations, and that is you end up with some county areas that are right in the middle of there are islands inside the city. So now what happens is the county develops there. They may be less expensive, but the transportation impact really is on us and not the county. That concerns me. And then the other thing that concerns me is how has our growth rate been in the last 3 years or 4 years compared to the county's growth rate? And has our transportation impact had an effect on that? It seems to me that if we're going to provide a 50% discount, I mean, I saw what you sent me over there in terms of the comparison to the county. If that's what the county's charging today, we're going to be 35, 40, 50% underneath them. But I don't know what they actually charge you. I know what their projected charges, and we compare it to our projected charges, but then we offer the 50% discount. What are they actually charging? So a lot of those little questions kind of come to mind that, is it really having an impact to what we're doing?
Well, I'll address I can address the first part of that question with regards to where the county is, and they have also applied an across-the-board 25% discount to their fee on top of something that I think approached a 50% discount. So when we're comparing those fees, our new fee is comparing to their existing fee with the policy discount. So that may be where you see some of the difference between the city's rate and the county's rate. In addition to that, when the county provides capacity, they can do it a little bit more efficiently than the city does. And if you think about sort of a more built urban environment, we have our signal spacing is a lot tighter than the county's. And so they have conditions where when they provide an arterial, they get more free flow traffic out of it than we do at the city. And that's just the way the built environment is. And so they pick up some gains in their fee structure from that as well. As far as permitting activity is concerned, we went through and kind of took a look after we had talked to both you and Commissioner Ings. If you take a look at where we are with the permitting activity in 2009-10 compared to 10-11, where we adjusted the transportation impact fee rate, you can see that there's very little change in single family, very little change in multifamily between that time period, and that we've seen sort of an uptick in commercial starts, which kind of get back to where we were, pre-2006-07. And so we don't really have any good indicators on the policy itself, and kind of because we're not it's difficult to determine who actually makes the choice not to construct based on the impact fee structure in and of itself, which is why it's more of a policy decision rather than a technical decision.
And the figures you sent me along the same lines, you gave me if we were at 100% and they were 100%, we're roughly a little bit more expensive than the county is. But I don't have what you sent me over was the actual rate the county charges. Okay. So we have what their proposed rate is. I think when you begin to apply, if they're applying a 25% discount to the 100%, and we're going to apply eventually a reduced rate and an additional 50%, we're getting ready to charge significantly less than what needs to be charged, and I don't see us ever getting back to an impact fee that would be appropriate for the high level of service that we provided in an urban area. That's we're looking sometime in the future. It's never going to get cheaper for us to accomplish this task.
Right.
So the only way you can make it up is the growth of the number of people coming in. And so I don't see that average. Yeah. Is there any way to get a comparison in terms of our figures to what the county is doing?
We can do that.
It's hard to do, I know. But
yeah, it probably gets even more confusing too, because they're in the middle of
doing the same thing.
As well, and so. In a lot of cases, we're sort of leading the way.
Well, the other thing is you look at the uptick in urban area, the multifamily and rental units primarily, and commercial units. So my question would be kind of generally, and I tried to find it, I couldn't find it in the report, but where is the national average going? If the national average is growing at, 15% and we're growing at 25%, then maybe in fact you could imply that some of these transportation fees are helping attract people to Orlando as opposed to someplace else. I would imagine that you could probably come up with the same thing in the county.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm really kind of looking at, where we are in the city, which we can get control on, where we are in the county, and where we are probably regionally.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're going to have to eventually make this up in volume. And if we can't figure out how to make up in volume, then all we've done basically is become, yes, in a sense, even game for everybody else. So we
Right.
become like everybody else.
Well,
I think we're better than that.
to kind of that point, when we looked at kind of the study and had the adjustment to the Tyndall Oliver scope to kind of introduce the concept of the thermostat, because we knew that the CPI probably wasn't a good way of determining where we would be on construction starts. Our consultant basically went through and took a look at it from more of a growth rate standpoint, and so in times when our growth rate is low, like today, and if you look at the graphic, we're at about city average 1.2%. The existing system has excess capacity that can be absorbed by that new development. But as we get into an environment where the growth rate increases back to where we're 3, 4, 5%, then the ability for the existing system to absorb that needed capacity is not there, and it would force us to kind of implement a higher fee. And so the way the ordinance is constructed is that every 3 to 5 years we have to go back and take a look at where we are with the rate schedule. And that would give us an opportunity to go back and take a look at our assumptions regarding growth rate and determine whether it's appropriate to shift that overall policy discount.
Well, the incentives about multimodal transportation are great, and I'd love to, the same way with Commissioner Ortiz, look at maybe an opportunity in the future to look at super stops along the same way. It may not be the same type of level of incentive because they're not going to attract the same type of high development, but there ought to be some type of incentive that will help us promote that at these super stops. That's a great idea. The discount's a great idea. I'd like to see kind of an impact. There may be, and I think what you're telling me is, I think what I understand you telling me is that we have a better way to collect the data today than we did 3 years ago. Better 3 years ago than 3 years before. So we're getting better at it. So the questions we ought to be asking is it really having an impact on what's going on in the community? Or are we just giving away the farm? I don't think that's the case. I think we really probably are having an impact because I think we provide superior services along the same lines.
Right.
Thank you, FJ.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, sir. FJ, quick question. In reference to what Commissioner Stewart brought up in reference to the county, I'm not as concerned about the county as long as we're competitive, because that's what we're trying to get, the business over here. But my main question, and I know that you guys did a study, sustainability. Can we sustain this, at the rate that we're bringing it down? Because if we can do that, well, even if the county has whatever rate they have, I think, our main thing is being competitive and survive, and being able to survive this. So,
well, from the competitive standpoint, if you look at the slide that's up here, at the current growth rate, which we've assumed to be about somewhere between 1 and 1.5%, the fee to be charged to keep us at least sustaining the capacity that we need to provide, we need to be somewhere around 50-55%. And so we're comfortable with the 50% recommendation because we're close. What that means for us at the department level is that we need to continue to be creative in the way we approach grant funding and matching projects. And so just in District 1, we've matched about $5.7 million in state monies with some local partnerships and about $500,000 of city funds and some county funds to kind of complete that 6-laning of Narcoossee Road from the 417 south. We did something very similar on the segment of Narcoossee between Lee Vista and the interchange. And so And there's a whole host of projects that we can list, including our BRT projects. And so we will be required to kind of maintain that level of proficiency.
I have one more question. Do we have a cap on the amount of years we're going to be doing this? Or is this going to be something we're just going to enter and then assess as the years go by?
We're required to go back every 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And so just as we start to shut this process down, we'll get about a year off, and then we'll probably ramp it back up. And I don't know if Terry's still here or not, but yeah. So, and we've got great leadership at the TAC level.
Well, that's great. I'm really looking forward for that to start happening in our districts. So thank you.
FJ, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll have this on council this afternoon.
Thank you.
That concludes our workshop for the day.